Everybody would stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, everybody's had an opportunity to read over the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I think the only thing we got to add, Mary Catherine, is a tree cutting.
Yes. Which was,
Let's put it in here someplace.
we can discuss it at the same time. We
Okay.
talked about the easement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, so I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda with adding in the tree cutting at the airport.
Make the motion.
All right, we have motion and support to approve the agenda. We'll move right on to Wes with some updates.
Guess I got the good news on the sanitary sewer system. The wires did get spliced yesterday and they're supposed to be back 10 o'clock today to finish getting that system hooked up. Hopefully we're done with that one other than, seeding, but actually damage to the fairgrounds. We've not had time to get anything done with that. 911 tower project, that tower's obviously up, and it's my understanding they're going out for bids to remove the old tower.
So actually, there was a little update Kim gave us day before yesterday. It sounds like they're going to leave it in place for a while.
Just to add additional color. So one of the questions at the Courts and Public Safety meeting in regards to that tower was whether or not there was anything as part of the special use permit that we were granted in putting up that tower that we had to remove it. When I reached out to Montiel Birmingham, who is the city planner and is the staff liaison to Planning Commission for the city, she said that there was nothing absolutely specific in the request that we made about removing the tower, but that it was talked about, and she feels like it was the understanding and expectation of Planning Commission that we would be taking the legacy tower down. There is a provision in the city code that once a tower is no longer being used, that there's a certain amount of time in which it must be removed. And I assured her at the moment it is still being used. The testing on the new tower hasn't, performed. And so we are still using the equipment on the old tower. I thought I understood from Kim, but I need to clarify that there is still third-party equipment on that old tower that won't be coming down immediately. So it will still be in use. But I do think even if it is not immediate, that we will have to, in the next year or two, think about what we want to do with that tower. I think we have a year but I will double check. I'll pull that email back up from Montiel, from when it's no longer in use to when we would be required by city code to take it down. So we cannot, unfortunately, just leave it up indefinitely if it is no longer being used, if we don't have any active equipment on it.
Okay. All right. We got an update on the update.
Yeah. The old DHHS building renovation, interior is complete. The building's been power washed. We need to put some sealer on the brick on the outside of the building and paint some trim over there yet. The replacement of the controls for the new terminal is complete now. I just got word on that yesterday. And the work at the MDOT building with installing the new equipment there is complete now also. The pool is shut down. We'll finish filling it back up today and get the heat turned on. That'll give them, I believe Sunday is their opening date. So that'll give them 3 days or so to get it up to temperature. And stuff. No surprises there this year. A few spots with, I think we had 4 spots with loose tile was all, so really well.
Good. No surprises are always good in that pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question for Mary Catherine.
Yes, ma'am.
Did they sign the contract yet?
They have signed the lease. It will start July 1.
Thank God.
Yes.
Be my next question.
Yes. They did request a little bit of extra electrical work that we'll be finishing up here, or hopefully they'll be getting in to finish up pretty quickly. But other than that, they will start moving in shortly.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, we have Mike with us today. Share some information.
Well, yeah, basically give an update. Fair, everything's kind of falling together for the fair this year. Got a couple requests. One being, we got a request for some 2x for bleachers repair again. We did that 2 years ago, I think, wasn't it, Wes? You supplied and we put a work bee together and
I think it was, yeah.
we didn't get to it last year. We need ballpark about another 25 planks. They're $52 each.
We just replaced, Mike, just so you know, we just replaced.
Oh, how soon, long ago?
Just for the Blues Festival, it was done last Saturday,
Oh, okay. So you may have replaced some of the bad ones that I had seen.
probably. I think,
You know how many you replaced?
that's what I'm looking for. Did, 6 8-footers and 6 16-footers.
Okay, so you replaced better than half of what I was thinking needed to be done. So I guess I'll walk it again, but I'm looking at, now I'm saying no, it's maybe 10. And maybe if you have a time, maybe we can get together and walk it together, just so we're in agreement that they need to be replaced. That sound? So maybe that's how we'll handle that. The other thing, I would like to make a request to put dog-eared fencing on the back of the bleachers, so we don't have to run that temporary cloth fence on the backs of the bleachers. It'll help make the bleachers look better. And it'd be something that could be taken back off if it needed to be down the road or whatever but it would just, I guess, hide the ugliness under the bleachers. And it would meet the requirement that we have to enclose that area for our liquor license during the fair. And then we wouldn't have to string up that temporary fence on that whole perimeter. We would only be doing it basically from the end of bleachers all the way out around and back to the bleachers. That's what I'm requesting. And then everybody would see what we're talking. Eventually, I'd like to do more dog ear fencing, so we didn't have to deal with putting it up and down every year. But for right now, I'm requesting to screw some to the back of the bleachers and.
Do you have the
Of course,
material?
what?
Do you have the material?
We will purchase the material.
Okay.
All I'm asking is permission to do it. And I'm looking at using dog ear, 6-foot-high dog ear panels.
You have any problem with that, Wes? My only, with any fence, is long-term maintenance. That's my only concern. I mean, I think it will look better. I just wonder what it's gonna bring down the road, that's all.
I assume that the stuff you're putting up is not treated.
No, what I was looking at was cedar. I can price trade it and see how much difference there is. I was looking at cedar.
I'm sure it'll be considerably higher.
Yeah. Well, cedar's pretty pricey right now too, so,
Well, maybe look and see. I mean,
yeah.
if it's something that would add 6, 8 years to the end game or something. And I guess, it may coincide with what we're thinking on this Plant Moran thing as well. Maybe it wouldn't need to be long-term. It's hard to see where this is all gonna go.
Yeah.
I don't think what were you thinking, 100 feet or something you said?
Oh, there's probably more than that, but
400 feet, 405.
yeah, 300-400 feet of it. And that's just doing the bleachers. At one time, to go all the way around, it's like 2,500 feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's just it. We've got a lot of our cloth is starting to get bad. That would allow me, instead of buying more of that, I put this up. That'll extend me a couple more years with the cloth system we use.
Yep.
Said more maintenance for you, Wes?
Well,
Short term, no.
no, just depends. You know, the bleachers are already there. We got to work around the bleachers anyway, so I don't see it being any more work for us now.
No,
Probably for a few years even, really.
Oh, it could be, yeah, 8, 10 years.
Sure.
before they need something done with them.
Right.
You'll still be here to do it, take care of that, right?
You can still be here in 10 years? I won't be.
I don't foresee an issue with that. I don't know about everyone else.
I don't see an issue.
No, I think we're okay with that.
Okay.
Yep, that'd be good.
And I guess the only other thing is, I had utilities on here, Mary Catherine, I briefly talked about it. We're paying utilities for, and I'm not sure how you arrive at the number that we pay on our monthly utility bill for electrical, because there's no electric panel on the building, and we're using it one day a month, basically. It just seems. And we also pay the water, which was the big one for me, because one day a month, we're paying the water bill, and I'm not sure how you're arriving at that, but the water for the campers, for their washout and their dump station all comes off that building.
We don't bill for the water,
Yes, we've been paying water bill.
power and gas.
Gas is metered. We pay the water. I can show you the checks we wrote for water.
Unless it was just a set amount per month that was done, but there's no way to meter it. There's no way.
Right,
we can-
and that's all I'm saying is we've been paying a water bill. When we receive the bill from the county, there's a portion in there for water, and I don't think we should be.
How much is it?
I have no idea. The last one I think was like $60. I can get that information for you and have it for next month if you're, what we have paid out. Which, that's the only reason I bring it up is that our treasurer asked why we were paying for a water bill. And I said, well, in my opinion, we shouldn't be because, I mean, realistically, we use it one meeting a month. And so we might flush the toilet 4 times, and during fair week, yeah, it gets used a little bit more, but it's used year round for the campers. That's their washout station and dump station off that building. So
No, I've not been reading the meter.
there is no meter. I looked, there is no meter on the building.
Yep, it's in the basement of the house.
Oh,
The water goes from the water pit into the house, out of the house and over to the barrack.
okay.
And there's a separate meter for the house, separate meter for the barrack office.
Oh, but nobody,
I've not been reading the meter, so if you're being billed, it must be a set dollar amount per month that.
There's a minimum charge each month, whether you use the water or not, if you're hooked up to it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but,
On demand charge.
Yeah.
And that bill goes directly to you guys?
I can, yeah, my treasurer can tell me what we paid for water in the last year or whatever.
But no, the bill would come to the county and then,
And then it's added, and we get a county, I think, bill every quarter.
I would have to double check on
I
that.
would too, but I think it's quarterly that they send us a bill, and it's our gas bill, which is metered. No problem with the gas bill. There's a meter on our building. We pay that, but it all comes from the county, not from the gas company or from, and there was a portion for basically where it's covering power, gas, and water.
Bill is city water quarterly too. So that'd be 3 months. So for $60 for 3
it comes
months.
every 3 months.
Yeah, so it'd be $20 a month for probably demand charge.
Yeah,
Anything.
it's just on-demand charge, whether
Well,
you,
you've got to be using more than demand charge out of that building just because of the campers coming through
I
there.
don't know, but
I don't know how that works, so.
you have to check on it.
But I'll check and see what we actually, that was it. Those were questions that my board asked me to, when I was here to ask, and I will get you the specifics of what, and I'll try to come to the next month's meeting and we'll, on that issue. It's not that big a deal. It's,
Sure.
I don't know if we should.
and then the other one I had on my agenda was the draft horse barn, and Wes and I talked about it, and they were planning on having that empty, so we should be all set there, right? You're getting
For the
your,
fair, yeah.
yeah, for the fair. So we should be all set there.
Is there still winter storage stuff in there?
Yeah, there's,
No.
It's,
It's county owned
Right.
stuff
Oh.
back towards barn.
Oh,
We do have a whole bunch of insulation in there that was left from the jail that got put in there that we've tried to sell it. I think we're probably at a point of if we can't give it to Habitat or someplace like that, we're gonna end up paying to get rid of it.
okay.
I don't know, should we take a vote on that fence?
Catherine, I don't know, do you want to talk about the power, where we're at with that situation, or you want?
well, I mean, it kind of rolls into the larger discussion. I mean, it was definitely something that was talked about. It was put on our CIP to work on the power situation out at the fairgrounds. There was lots of discussion about it last year. The fact that, yes, we're all essentially on one big supply to the fairgrounds. And how could we split it off? How could we meter so that, you know, we've got appropriate metering for the different buildings? I know that certainly was a question with animal control, both for their building and for the use of the merchants building when they have rolled over into there with overflow. And because of the fair, it causes us to have this massive bulk charge on the bill because it all comes through one service and there's no way to split it off and say, all right, this is just the discrete power for the fair. So we've never actually gotten any solid quotes for it. We kind of talked generally about what it might cost to do. Yeah.
There was money put in the budget
Yep.
this year to put separate meters on the house and on the fair office.
Yep.
So I spoke with Ryan Fairchild, and that intent with that was to lower the demand charge. 15, 20 minutes with Brian, and he said the same thing I was thinking, is that when you take those small users off that large demand, you're not gonna affect the demand charge. And what did we do? $15,000, I think we had budgeted. So what I did was I spoke to him about putting a separate meter on those buildings, whichever buildings we want, knowing how much power is being used, but it's something that we would have to read ourselves and bill accordingly if we wanted to charge for it. $920.
Yeah, it was
Was to do like 4 buildings. Animal
Right.
control, I talked to him about, MSU, the house, and the fair office.
So it wouldn't actually split the power. It would just allow us to read it so that we, one, would know, and two, could then third-party bill if we wanted to, or at least track it with the different uses.
So in order to affect the demand charge, we need to affect the demand. We need to get to where the large power is being used and split that up in order to change the demand charge.
That's once a year. They do the man.
Yeah.
Your highest usage.
To the fairs when
Yeah.
it peaks, and then that causes the demand charge.
if you look at your power company records, you'll find that actually the last couple of years, the worst demands were in July, when your campground was full.
I don't believe so. I do know that I did at one time a bit of a spreadsheet that when COVID was going on and there was no fair going on, even though we had more campers, our demand charge dropped to $300 a month. As soon as we had a fair again, it went back up around 2,000.
And it doesn't really make sense because the fair is they're running off generators.
No, they're opening our panels, they're tying directly into our panels.
You're right, for 2 or 3 of the rides are run off the panels, yeah.
For quite a bit of stuff, apparently.
Yeah.
So the real key would be, is there a way to either bring in a new supply that is specifically for the fair? So when the fair comes, they only plug into that particular supply,
That's feasible.
right?
I don't know
Or
what-
splitting off our existing in such a way as this is what they plug in, it's separately metered, it's a separate account, and that's the fair. A supply that the fair uses during fair week, and then the rest is for all of our other uses. That would be really the only way to get at this issue of the demand charge. Splitting off these other, as Wes was saying, these other little users isn't going to really impact that, except that it will give us the ability to know what is being used at these other buildings.
How much is the demand charge?
Somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000 a month.
It's chunky.
The bill for the month of the fair is between $5,000 and $6,000.
If you split that up, you're gonna have two demand charges.
Yes, you will.
But if we split up so that the fair is on one and the rest of our use is on another, hopefully, right, that's an even use. And then we're actually being billed for what we are actually using year round. And then the fair, right, would get hit with that one. So,
Yeah, what's really bad about a demand charge, once you exceed it, you pay that demand rate for the rest of the year.
right.
Per year, yeah.
Yeah, it takes a while they don't just, it doesn't go away. Even if you never exceed it, you still are gonna pay it.
Right.
So we're probably paying an additional $20,000 a year.
That shouldn't have to be paid, correct?
So why don't we just rent a generator for the week of the fair? Because I can rent a 30 kW generator for $3,200 for a week.
Would that meet the need, do you think?
I have no idea what.
I'll talk to our carnival people. That's the users. And find out what all they're actually pulling and what would be required of. See if we can work on that.
So you have my number, right? If you can
Yeah.
get that information and pass it along to me, I can find out what a rental would be.
Okay.
But because, I mean, if we can spend $8,000 a year instead of an extra 20,000, I mean, it comes up in the math.
We used to do that at the rink when we put down ice. We'd run the diesel generators. It'd be cheaper if we lowered demand. What it cost for diesel, we saved the demand charges for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You could do it on a 30 kW or 25 kW, you could do a small village.
Yeah.
You know, for powering it. And we just have to have somebody, you know, make sure that the diesel gets in there and it's filled back up, that's all.
Yep.
I like your way you're thinking on that, Travis.
Well, it'd be a huge savings, I
Yes, it
think.
would. I think.
Especially over the years. So yeah, why don't we look at that?
Okay.
And then we can, then maybe this power bill won't be such a big.
Well, and yeah, and I guess from my standpoint, if we'll talk about stuff and look for solutions.
Yeah,
In the long run, it's gonna help us all.
certainly. Certainly. Yep.
So that's all I had.
So why don't you and I work together on that? And then we'll have a game plan for our next meeting here.
Sounds good.
Yep. And Brenda mentioned about a vote on the fencing. Since we're not spending any money, I don't think we need a vote.
No.
Not necessarily, I mean, if you can, but if you're just telling him to go ahead, that should be.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, for the sake of it, we can have a quick vote. I mean, all in favor of moving forward with allowing the fair board to add some fencing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
You're good.
All right, so we've got to vote for the record and we'll move forward.
Okay.
And Wes, you know, I guess I'll just add to that. Maybe if you can just keep an eye on that, put it in your mind to take a peek at that fencing once a year, you know, a week or something ahead of the fair. And if it is getting deteriorated quickly, maybe we can ask these folks to throw some Thompson sealer on it with a garden sprayer once a year or something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, all right, well, thank you. We'll move forward and I'll get with you, Wes, about that.
Yeah, I will talk to the fair people and then I'll get with you and,
Yeah, sounds good.
okay.
Yep, thank you. And I'll get with you on that insulation too. Maybe like Habitat people, that might be a good fit for them.
Yeah, it's pole barn insulation. It's not just regular pole insulation.
Okay.
There's a few different thicknesses, a few different widths of it. And it's, like I say, it's just leftover material.
Sure. Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Okay, well, we'll move on to Nikki.
Thank you. Good morning, all.
Morning.
Hopefully this is relatively simple request. I'm here asking for approval to move forward on a project within the home improvement program. It's in our guidelines that anything that's going to exceed $15,000, that I need to bring that to your attention and get a recommendation and approval by the full board. So that is what I'm here for. I put together a memo and I'm pretty sure it probably explains everything, but does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? I guess just to summarize, these homeowners are homeowners that had a previous loan with us. And they came in last spring and paid off that loan. It wasn't due, but they were so proud that they were able to get out from under that. And then a few months later, unfortunately discovered a very unfortunate situation. They thought they were going to do something as simple as replace the flooring in their home, and it opened up a can of worms with the foundation. And it's turning into a project that's going to require actually jacking up the foundation of their home, replacing some subfloor beams and boards, and they can't even get their flooring replaced until this is taken care of. And it obviously is a future that could be bigger problems in the future if left unattended. And through our program, we have the ability to help them out. This would come in the form of a loan to them. Had the numbers come in under $15,000, we could have granted this project. But once we got bids from contractors, they came in over 15,000, which of course brings me to you folks today. And it requires that we lien the full amount as opposed to granting the project. They do have equity in their home, probably not the full 20,000. We usually don't go through the expense of having appraisals or market analysis done. We just depend on the SEV and double it as a general guideline for the values of homes. So they do have a first mortgage on their home with a balance of about $38,000. We're looking to put a lien of about $19,000 more. It puts us in a second mortgage situation, which if you punch the numbers, it's going to exceed a little more than $50,000 as far as a debt on the home. It would still be my recommendation to do it. We're not really in the business of, the risk that we take is potential future spending down the road, money that comes back into our program that we can put back out into the community. But these folks have never missed a mortgage payment. They're faithful on their first mortgage. Had they not paid us off last year, they could have used their $20,000 to take care of this, left that loan with us, and we would have been in the exact same situation as what I'm asking to put us back into today. So for that reason, I hope we can help these folks out. I have the funding and I really need to spend this funding or I have to send it back to the state. And I would love to not send the state back any money this year. And I am on track to not do that. So happy to answer any further questions if you have any.
Well, it seems like you have a pretty strong opinion about it, and they have a good rapport, it sounds like. And as you just mentioned, if they wouldn't have paid this off, they would have had the money to deal with this themselves.
Exactly.
I'll make a motion. We approve this home improvement program loan.
I'll second that.
Just to be clear, so I understand, do we need to make a motion to move this to full board or can we approve it right now?
I think we can prove it.
I think our practice is now that you make a recommendation to full board and it would get approved at the full board meeting later this month.
Yeah.
That's what we've been doing on these. I know this is only the second time I've been before you. Actually, last month we brought 2 projects. Mary Catherine presented those to you in my absence. I think this will start to be a more recurring thing, and this process is fairly new to the program. Years back, we had a separate committee that made these decisions on the spot, and we've just kind of eliminated some of the committees
Didn't we?
have. And so this has been our new practice, is for me to come before you and then you make a recommendation to the full board.
Mary Catherine, wasn't there something we discussed about bypassing the full board of this, on these loans that they needed to be done instead of waiting another month?
Yes, but that was discussed when Nikki redid her program guidelines, is that there is still the ability within those program guidelines to appoint a committee. And I think by default, the facilities committee became that home improvement committee that could make those decisions. I'd want to go back and review those program guidelines quick. And it might be something where just to close the circle, to dot all of our i's and cross all of our t's, it might be something that full board goes ahead and approves this committee as the home improvement committee to make those decisions without coming
Because some of these things they
time sensitive.
can't wait, the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they get, furnace goes out in the wintertime or a hot water heater goes out or something like that. And for them to sit and wait 2 weeks for the funding.
Absolutely.
So-
And I appreciate that, just you raising that question. This one, under the circumstances, I mean, we're dealing with contractors that are trying to schedule this work. So there's yes, these folks would have loved to have this work done 6 months ago. They actually applied in November, and it has just been a process getting me before you today. But we're so dependent on contractors and their busy schedules right now that the 2 weeks in this circumstance isn't going to hurt anything. And the fact that we've built into our guidelines the ability for me to have the discretion as the home improvement director to be able to push forward projects under $15,000 did allow us to really help folks out in those emergent situations over the winter. We've replaced multiple furnaces in homes, and it was really wonderful to take this piece out of it. And I was just able to get on the ball and get these before heat, because we definitely were able to step into those situations with no wait.
So we could, go forward with the full board and discuss the guidelines, Mayor Catherine, on that. And if it comes down to where this committee here has authority to move forward with Nikki's request, we can do that.
Yeah.
So,
That'll work.
Hey, Chair, I just have a question if I may.
Certainly.
So if this 19,130 is approved, does that basically tap out your budget, or do you still have money available for others who may have a need in the?
Well, I'm coming up at the end of the fiscal year as far as the program income funding. The end of the fiscal year is actually June 30th.
Okay.
So I'm at the tail end of spending that pot of money. I'll have a new pot of money starting July 1.
Okay.
To add a little twist to that, I'm actually going to seek an extension from MEDC only because the contractors have not been able to get to the projects. We've got homeowners ready to receive assistance and ready to have projects all done. They're all lined up, and it's just a matter of the contractor getting up on the roof and pounding nails into the roof. And so we're going to need another month and a half. And so MEDC is going to give me an extension to spend this pot of money. And then I still have homeowners lined up, ready to go with the next pot of money that we will get approved to spend.
Okay. Yeah, because we operate in sometimes 3 different fiscal years, so I didn't know how this
Yes.
affected. But so if it's 30 June at the end of this for your FY, then okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
and I do need to have the money committed by June 30th. So having this project approved is important for that June 30th deadline, even though the physical work won't be completed by June 30th.
Okay. Thanks, Chair.
All right, thank you. Good question. So we have a motion, and do we have support yet? I don't believe so. Bill has made the motion.
Actually, I think Bill Peterson made the motion and Bill Hayes.
Okay, good, perfect. So we do have motion and support. Since we're spending some money here, we'll take a vote. Do we need to take a roll call vote?
yes.
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kondrashevsky.
Yes. So with approval, we'll move forward and allow you to spend your money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming today. Okay. Well, we've got that out of the way. Now we'll move on to the easy one. You told me you were gonna go through this page by page. Is that true?
Page by page. Well, actually, we are at the Alpena rink management surcharge first. So this is coming back to you guys because there had been a discussion and a desire to move forward with increasing the surcharge to $1.50. But we had also talked about the 2 policies. So previously, there was both a collection policy and a use policy, and combining them into one policy and cleaning up some of the language. When I sent that to the folks at Northern Lights Arena, as well as the updated lease, which the only thing the updated lease would have done would have been bumped to the 150 and made a new reference to the amended policy, I got a very upset email and phone call. So I had a meeting with the folks from Northern Lights Arena. They feel very strongly that they would prefer to come up with another way to increase the money going into the surcharge fund. Because they feel like they have increased prices a lot over the past year, and adding another even 50 cents onto the surcharge fund fee that we collect from them to put into the capital fund would be a lot. Because they pass that essentially directly on to the people who are using the arena. What they suggested, actually have been doing already, is instead of increasing the surcharge, is right now the surcharge policy does not take into account ice rental time. So it talks about tickets and ticket sales, but it doesn't talk about ice rentals. So what they were proposing, and so what you have in the new surcharge collection and use policy in your packet, is the red language there, which would leave the $1, but put in addition a fee of $3 per hour of ice time rented will be collected and deposited as part of the surcharge. Last year, they collected $1 per hour of ice, and it came to about $1,500. So if you double that plus a little, you're looking at about an additional $4,000 into a fund from ice rentals, which they figure will roughly approximate what you might collect in additional 50 cents on a surcharge. They said, for us to keep in mind that last year was a really good year. The boys high school hockey team did really, really well. They sold a lot of tickets, but in previous years, that has not always been the case, but ice rentals are pretty solid. People are always renting ice.
They do that in all ice rentals. So I think it'd be more than $4,500. Because I know when we did it one time when I was part of the group, we were charging $5 an hour was going in this separate fund, lifetime rental. And that went on for a couple of years. And I think that was like our first or second year, Brenda, money was spent back, and we stopped that policy.
Right.
So we used to charge $5 an hour of ice time rental for all rentals. So if they're doing it on $3 per hour of ice rental, it should be more than $4,500. I would have them check that numbers, because I know the Hockey Association, what they rent per year, plus figure skating, plus anybody that comes in and rents the ice, men's association, all that stuff. So. But it is a good idea because it adds more money quicker.
Well, and it sounds like it's a little more consistent as
And that's
well.
what a lot of rigs do. They'll put a service charge on their ice rental to go towards maintenance of their facilities.
Right.
Sounds like a good idea, because you're gonna have some big expenses in the next 5 or 10.
Yeah.
No, not that. So we'll still be getting that $1.
Yeah, we still get the $1.
Yes, well,
And then a fee of $3 on the.
right. $3 per hour of ice rented would be collected and added in. And then we talked about the fact, we removed the exemption for the Michigan State, Michigan High School Athletic Association tournaments, because they said they don't actually get any of that money. None of those ticket fees come to the hockey arena. They rent the ice time, but all of those fees go to the association, and they don't get any of it and go to. So it seemed like a silly exemption to have in there, because they don't get any of those dollars anyway. So I was proposing that we just remove that language. And then accountability. So under the old policy, it says the procedure for collecting the surcharge on ticketed events will be that the lessor, i.e. the county, has to sit with the lessee during the ticket gate count and count the tickets together with both signing a receipt. I will tell you that in my review, that has never happened.
No.
And so having it in the policy seems very silly. If it doesn't happen and we, are, like, if we're concerned that they're cheating us on the count, that's like a whole nother discussion to be having.
Who's going to do it? You don't have staff to do that.
End up paying somebody to do
Yeah, it's like,
it. Zero.
Right. So instead, we just say that they presented transmittal to us, signing that they verified the count with the deposit, which is essentially what's been happening. They turn in the deposit based on the count that they give us.
I think you can trust them to get the decent account.
That's kind of.
It makes sense to get rid of that. I agree.
And then we talked about under the permitted use of the surcharge funds. One of the things that they were asking about was larger pieces of equipment, like could they use it, for example, they have those really big floor cleaners. They look like lawn tractors, but they're for inside to clean the floors, because of course they have a lot of floors to clean there. But those, those pieces of equipment, and now I forget how much he told me, they're spendy. And he's got two of them, three of them, two that were purchased used, one that was purchased new, but they're all over 10 years old, creeping up on 15 years old, and will probably need to be replaced soon. I said, I don't see any issue with using surcharge funds to buy those. The issue will be, of course, that if surcharge funds are used to purchase those, then like the Zambonis, they become equipment owned by the county, not owned by you guys. So as long as you are okay with that, then I don't see any issue with using surcharge money if it's approved.
The only problem is if we use that money to purchase equipment, what happens if we need a new furnace or roofing or whatever? That money's gone because now we own equipment. I am not in favor of that.
Well, the
We get to take,
equipment's got, well, there's equipment in there that's going to go to the county anyway. It has to be maintained. If it's the compressor or it's the Zambonis. I mean, the new Zamboni is $100,000 minimum. So,
if they expect
You
us
get
to
those-
buy the equipment, then
Got it pretty old right now. They're gonna need.
yeah, well, the one is originally from the barn, so that's 85,
Yeah.
but it's been rebuilt. But the other one's probably 14 years old when we bought it new, when we put the rink. So it's, but I mean, if they're well maintained, they'll last a long time. I mean, I've seen Zambonis 50 years old still running, so. Yeah, well, the one is almost 50 years, it's 50 years old, so.
Well, and to your point, Commissioner Fournier, so right now, we're working on updating our CIP internally. And that was one of the discussions I had with the folks at Northern Lights Arena, Jeremy.
Jeremy and Dave.
And yes, and Dave, thank you, is that, all of their items that are over $5,000 need to go on our CIP. Then we take the CIP and we start thinking about the budget. So Brenna, just because there's something that's listed that is an allowable use, that's not the end of the story, right? It's not just that it's on there and then boom, they get to spend it. It still has to be budgeted, which means you guys still have approval over whether that's going to come out of the surcharge fund as part of an approved budget. One of the things that the old policy did was put in, a minimum amount. And one of the things that we talked about when I met with Jeremy was that they find the reimbursement process to be very onerous. And I said, you're not required to, you don't have to submit for reimbursement if you don't want to. That's up to you as far as how you are managing your budgets. If you just don't want to submit a reimbursement and don't want to ask for anything for a couple of years because you're saving up for a bigger purchase, or that we've got a roof coming up, that's perfectly fine. But it has to be included as part of our CIP, and then you have to make the budget request when it's coming up on budget time, and then the commissioners can approve that as an expense. And then if it's approved as part of the budget to come out of the surcharge fund, then it's budgeted just like any of our other departments. They know that they have that money available, and then they can go and do their project.
So once we make these changes, does this have to go to full board?
Yes.
Approval?
If you guys, or if you want to talk about some of these, or if you think we need to make some more changes, I can take those back to them. But yes, once you guys are happy with this, we would send it on to full board.
Basically, the only changes you're making is $3 and the 5,000. Correct.
Essentially, well, right, and then I changed the language there, that last little paragraph, it also in red is just changing the way that we budget.
Yep. I'll make this motion to go ahead and correct the surcharge.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor, looking for approval. A second on the motion?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Motion from Mr. Peterson and a second from Mr. Lay. So we'll move forward with taking that to full board.
We're gonna to vote on it.
Okay,
One more question. So that equipment valued over 5,000, that is staying as presented to us? Are you changing it?
That's, you guys tell me.
Yeah, true. So I'm not in favor of that, so go ahead and do yours.
okay. So we'll do a roll call vote for this.
Commissioner Fournier,
No.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Konarshewski.
Yes.
They maintain a fund balance over there at all?
There is a small fund balance in the surcharge fund. Yeah, I think it's got about $130,000 in it, but I would have to double check that.
Okay, all right, thanks. I'm just curious, I haven't really looked at that.
Okay. Next item on the agenda for Mary Catherine would be
Did you
the,
vote? for-
I am not a member of the committee. I'm just here to learn more about
Oh,
the upcoming topics.
all right, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yes, the Canfield easement. So Mr. Canfield came in to see me in regards to the easement. The maps that you have in front of you are also just, they're similar to the one that was in your materials. I just zoomed in on the top piece because the bottom one, anyway, give us all an idea of exactly where we're talking about. So Mr. Canfield owns a hunting camp that's kind of tucked up at the back corner behind the airport. If you think of 32 as being the bottom and the base as being the top, top east corner of the property. He has an easement to access his property over our property that sits outside the fence. So obviously we have the airport property, but then we own to the east of that, all the way over past the sheriff's office. There are two issues. One is the road needs maintaining so that, you know, it doesn't get overgrown and he can actually drive on the easement. When you own an easement, it is the easement holder's responsibility to maintain that road. So it is Mr. Canfield's responsibility to maintain that road. The issue is that, and I have a very vague recollection of this, it came up 2 years ago when I first started, is that the last time Mr. Canfield did some maintenance on that road and cut trees, there was a concern in regards to, one, the ownership of the trees, because if he's cutting down trees in order to clear the road, technically, yes, those trees belong to the county, and also making sure that things got cleaned up, right? Where were the trees getting dropped? So this is kind of an odd catch-22, right? It's Mr. Canfield's responsibility to clear the road. It's his cost. But if he's cutting our trees, do we want to say or do something about that? I've had some discussions and some input in regards to the fact that the cost of lumber right now is such that there's really very little value to what he would be clearing out of there. And if the road has been maintained over the years, probably what he's clearing back is not big enough to be worth anything anyway. So the suggestion that when I had a discussion with our airport manager about this, since that road is pretty close to his airport, was to go ahead and tell Mr. Canfield that 25 feet to either side of the center line of the road, go ahead, clear it. It's your responsibility to make sure it is all cleaned up, right? If you're clearing the road, then you've got to clear the brush, you got to get the logs out of there, you got to get the wood out of there. You can't just drop it and leave it. One of the things that I did find, though, in looking in this, is that the first 600 feet right off of M32 is not actually our property. We have an easement over somebody else's property. So I think we need to draft up some kind of a document that allows Mr. Canfield to use our easement. And I don't know that that document exists. I have not found it yet. I have the easement that Mr. Canfield has over our property. We have that documented, but that first 600 feet, he can't get an easement from the landowner because we have that easement. So that would be just something I would recommend that we,
He goes in east of the Sportsman's Club.
that's my, yes.
On Sportsman Drive, and then it looks like,
Yes.
we're looking at Onyx, it cuts across the top 10 acres or whatever from east to west and then north all the way up, which is a two-track, if you will, for Sportsman's Drive along the perimeter fence and then back north to into his property. This is a pretty reliable app, so. So you're talking about with the Sportsman's Club?
There's another road that goes in by the old Zager Beverage Company. I think that's the road he's talking about, isn't it? That's the one he always used before.
Well, when he and I talked about it,
I don't know if you want to look at that or not, but here's his property right up.
yes, this is his right there.
Right
Yeah.
there. Yep,
Yeah.
right there. So it looks like he goes
Yeah,
here
there's-
along the fence and then down onto Sportsman's Drive.
That's what he was talking about, but is Steve, are you on, Steve Smigelski? There we are.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, you're correct. Where the old Alpena Beverage is, there's that little two-track road. That's what he's using to connect to the drive behind Sportsman's, the Sportsman's Club. Sorry, I've got straightening trays in this morning and I'm not talking very well. But yeah, that's if we let him cut those trees out along the airport easement, then that will help keep that road drier and will reduce the amount of maintenance done to it. I completely agree with Mary Catherine that we should draft something that allows Mr. Canfield to use our easement that goes along the old Alpena Beverage property.
So, yeah, so he goes in as, and then, because it's straighter if he goes in that way than going Sportsman Drive all the way around to hook up.
I don't think he had an easement across the Sportsman's Club property either.
No, probably not. Probably not. So,
I think I saw him at the courthouse one day. I think that was part of his problem too.
and I think the relationship with the Sportsman Club has not always been good, which is why he uses our easement across.
There are times when the Sportsman's Club will actually lock a gate going back towards their firing ranges when they're shooting skeet and such along the road line. So that's another problem that Mr. Canfield would have accessing the easement across Sportsman's Drive.
Does he have a contract with the Sportsman's Club for the easement or?
To my knowledge, he does not.
I know there's a law passed that you cannot have landlocked property. It's not. This would sound like it would be a landlocked property if he doesn't have a easement to get to his property through somebody.
He's got access through county property.
Okay. So he's not happy with the county property or he just wants to cut the trees and keep
He
it?
just needs to clean it up.
That's it.
That's it. So that's not a problem. I don't think he's always been doing it because I can remember when he did come to us.
I think he has. I think just 2 years ago, there were some questions about the trees. And so he wanted to make sure that when he goes in to clear this year, that there aren't going to be any issues. It's all taken care of and he's got the blessing to go ahead and.
Well, as long as you don't get crazy and take off a couple acres on either side.
I'd go along with what Mary Catherine said, let him clean up the road if he cleans up the mess and let him use it. He's been using it for years anyway, so he might as well. You can't take it away from him.
No, we cannot, absolutely, we cannot take the easement away, but that is a legal document. He has that easement, so.
It's
just make sure he understands that he's got to clean it up when he's, get the stuff out of there. What do we have to do, make a motion on that?
As long as he don't take a lot of property on either side, he just takes what he needs to get to clean the road.
Yeah, just clear the road.
That's
Not
it.
the adjacent.
So are you guys comfortable if we do 25 feet to either side of the center line of the road?
What is the, a regular road? Measurements.
33.5 feet easement from center line. This is a regular highway, right? That was, I
Yes,
think.
it is.
The county road would be.
Yeah, 25 should be sufficient. You know, in here in the old one, he's got 16 and a half. We're giving more than he's asking for.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So do we say with our motion that we're good with it, with an additional agreement? For the other piece?
I think they should be two. One would be allowing him to clear his easement 25 feet either side of the center line, make sure he cleans it up. And then a second motion to allow me to work on drafting an agreement to let him use our easement to access his easement.
You got that written down?
Give him
Get it, Kim? Kim's got it.
Okay, I'll make that motion then.
I'll support.
Okay, so we have a motion to support. Do we need to take a vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Are you all in favor of moving forward with this?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Sounds like the motion's passed. We'll carry on.
So we just, if we want to talk about the cutting of the trees in the airfield or next to the airfield fence. So this was a proposal that had come forward that Steve Smigelski brought up, where there's a provider who is interested in the wood for pulp, is my understanding, and Steve can make sure that I get that right, to clear along the fence line, both inside and outside of the perimeter fence, which would very much help the airport because of the issues of animals and wildlife getting onto the runway, and also for security and safety and sightlines. So Steve, I don't know if you've got anything else to add into that?
No, that pretty much sums it up. This is an excellent opportunity for us to get rid of what's been a continuing, they've never written us up for it, but they always mention the fact that we've got these wildlife harbors inside the perimeter fence. And for security purposes, we should have the tree line cleared away. At one point it was, but it was only cleared away, I believe, 15 feet. So this is an opportunity for us to clear 100 feet away. And then that way there, we will have no issues whatsoever with security sight lines. And then the guys from Alpena Ground Services can help keep that cut down simply by running a brush hog over it.
Okay, so
What are we looking at for as type of timber, Steve?
There are some hardwoods, there are some oaks. The majority of the wood is really pretty scrubby. And what they want to do with it is they want to grind it up and make fuel pellets out of it, because they supply two local companies with these pellets for fuel. So they're willing to basically do everything for free. They're going to grub out the stumps, clean up the brush. And if we let them keep the little bit of actual good lumber that's out there, I think that it's just a bargain for the county.
Well, grubbing out the stumps is a big cost right there, so. I mean, even if we got money on the logging it, we have to go back and grub it anyway. We want
Yes.
the same thing, so it's a win-win.
who is the contractor on that, Steve?
That is Dan Glovey of, I believe his company is Northeast Timber.
Okay. And you got his insurance and everything already from him?
No, I was waiting for a decision to come. Now I'll reach out to Mr. Glovey. And if he doesn't have a contract that's already drafted, then we can draft something that would include the insurances and holding the county harmless, that sort of stuff.
Okay. I assume he probably would have all the insurances in place. We would just want a copy of it for yourself, from the county.
Yes, definitely.
So we're looking for a motion to move forward with this tree cutting.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Mr. Lahey,
I'll support.
Support from Mr. Peterson. So all in favor of moving forward with the tree cutting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, with no opposition, we'll move forward and get that done for you, Steve.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, before I go, he did offer to clear cut everything on the west side of Airport Road where we want to put in all that property development. Would this be included with the motion?
Which, there's nothing over there, is there?
No, that's
It's-
even worse.
That's all that scrub pine and all that, isn't it?
Yes, it
Scotch
is.
pine and that, yeah, clean that up
Yeah,
too.
we'll say that's in the motion.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. So I believe we do have our folks from Plant Moran on. So what you have is the draft of the report that Plant Moran has put together for us. So I think they are ready to just kind of, step you through it a little bit. We're not asking for approval of it today. We're just looking for some feedback and then a timeline on presenting it to the full board as the finished product. So I'll turn it over.
Thank you, guys. My name is David Goldman. I was kind of in charge of the capital planning walkthrough with Wes and the staff over there. And on the line as well is Manny. Manny, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Manny Herrera. I'm also working on this study with David, Andy Fountain as well, who's not on the call today. But just to give you a little background, we started this engagement at the beginning of the year. And it involved two things. It involved the capital plan that you're about to see a draft for today, as well as a space needs assessment that's also happening in the background. And together, our hope is that these two reports can kind of give you an overview of the condition of the existing facilities and then any deficiencies that we can kind of tackle in the short term and long term. But this is still very much in draft form. We did want to take the opportunity to walk you through that, solicit some feedback, and then ask any, give you an opportunity to ask any questions about that. But I'll let David kind of walk through that work that we've, again, we leveraged Wes and his intimate knowledge of the facilities, and then, where we see our potential improvements during the planning horizon.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. Right now, for some reason, the PowerPoint or the it won't show up on mine, the PDF. So I'm just going to actually go through the PowerPoint for you. Please stop and ask questions as we progress through the presentation. This is a draft form dated June of 2023. We are willing and able to make changes as we discuss more with you guys, with the team. So again, this is not the final copy. This kind of just gives kind of what our overview is of the product and table of contents. Executive summary, again, kind of what we did when we did it, the purpose of that, the assessment and walkthrough, kind of how we looked at the buildings. It was non-invasive, we took a lot of pictures and notes as we talked to Wes and the team. We looked at, site conditions, building envelope, interior finishes, mechanical and electrical systems, as well as the plumbing. We had Wes and his team fill out some pre-site visit questionnaires, which were great in terms of providing us with some of the historical background that we were looking for. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. And we obviously got a lot of floor plans to help us through the process. Some just kind of, these are some of our notes as we went through the sites of just some assumptions and clarifications, just so we could document that stuff better and provide answers. And then what we really just did was we took kind of our observations and grouped it into three priorities. Priority one being stuff that we felt was needed within 1 to 3 years. Priority two is that 4 to 6 year range. And then the priority three is the 7 to 10 year. We had a calibration session with Wes at over on via Teams, and we did move some stuff around per his request. He thought some things were needed earlier or later than what we initially wanted, and we could do that same process with you guys as needed, if needed. So not a problem. Here is kind of the cost broken down by category, by building. A lot of the buildings we looked at were at the fairground complex, but we also did look at the courthouse, the annex building across the street, and the probation and dispatch next door. So you can see in the right-hand column, this is a cost with escalation. Obviously, as you guys are probably familiar with right now, the cost of construction and work has gone pretty high, and it's starting to plateau, but it's not going down to the pre-COVID years. So we do have some escalation factors in there. You'll notice that like the animal control storage doesn't have any dollars. It's a very small storage shed and was in pretty good shape. Any questions as it pertains to this sheet or anything I've mentioned so far?
Yes, sir. This is Bert Francisco, sir. So let's just, if you would talk me through the explanation of the numbers. So we'll just start with number one, says courthouse. Priority one, 2,562,936. Is that the current value of the courthouse, or is that the cost for repairs?
That's the cost of the repairs that we have identified with Wes and the team. As we go through the report, you'll see actual individual sites broken out. This is really just the summary page. This is not taking into account, like if you were to expand the historical courthouse, what that construction cost would be. We just don't have that data of what exactly you guys are looking for.
It's
but this
is right now.
Correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
Yep. It kind of breaks it down by a graph of kind of where the priorities are. And then this is by building category. Sorry, it's sideways, but you could see safety, security. So this kind of takes those numbers that you saw previously and breaks it down into these buckets rather than by the priority. And then kind of, again, the pie chart of where we stand for each of those major systems. And then this is the net present value slide. So this does not have the escalation cost in it. So you can see the difference there. There's just some, and then here's where you would get into the individual buildings. So as you can see, those are the three buildings right off of 23 that we looked at. And then the fairgrounds, which are sites 4 through 24 later on in this document. So courthouse, again, we have all the general information that we were given from Wes prior to our walkthroughs. Here's an overview of it. Here are the floor plans we have for the site and labeled as best as we know they can be. And then here, to answer your question, here's where you would start pulling those costs for the individual buildings. And you could see the priority 1, 2, and 3 across with the escalation factor. Yep.
Going back to your, I think it's page 19, I did note that I think your numbers are wrong.
Okay. It's just
you have number 1, and that's actually the annex building.
Oh, good. Yep, you're right. I see that now. You look at these a lot, and I apologize for that. You look at these a lot and you kind of miss something. So I will make sure we get those addressed.
Yes. Yes. So, okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yep. And again, we can go through this in a much more detailed process if the board wants, and you know, we can go line by line like we did with Wes and Mary Catherine, or you know, you guys can look at it at your own time and provide us feedback as well. So I'm not going to go through every line, but we kind of break it down by building envelope, interior finishes, furniture and equipment, plumbing systems, HVAC systems, electrical systems, safety and security, abatement, and then site work. What you'll see is we try to, with the HVAC equipment, we try to get good reads of all the equipment tags. So we have the years in here of when those were manufactured. So you can see a lot of them, you know, are on the older side. Your boilers, we are suggesting, you know, they should last, you know, the 7 to 10 years with the proper maintenance that Wes is doing with them. But so we try to put the years in when we can. You'll see like a couple unable to read the tags. You know, some get weathered and you can't read them. So we do provide all that information to you. Is there any specific things you guys want to look at building wise, or do you want me to go line by line? How do you want to go through these reports?
It's a lot of information to digest.
It is.
So unless you guys have a specific question, is your preference to kind of take this home and think about it and look about it and then see if we want to set up a separate meeting? And that was kind of one of the things that I wanted to see with you guys. If we wanted to do, I know this is a lot, so we're just kind of introductory of the material. Do we want to do a separate sort of more in-depth meeting with this? Do you just want to get information back to me individually to get to the folks at Plant Moran? And what would we be looking at a timeline for a final report?
Has this draft been provided to all 8 commissioners?
It has not at this point, just to this group. Yep.
Yeah, I think it'd be, who was to move it on to all 8 commissioners, study it for a month and come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, get
My recommendation, although I'm not on this committee, but I think for everybody to take a look.
I agree. I
got
think,
160 some pages to go through and
yeah.
And what we did,
15 more.
and yeah, and what we did, you know, after the cost reports for each, we do have general pictures of the buildings, as you can see, the courthouse. We did that with all the fairground buildings as well. Show the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, anything that we felt is worth documenting. So you do have some pictures in there. We obviously took a whole lot more pictures while we were on site, but that would make the report even bigger. So we can provide them as needed. We can get them to Mary Catherine if needed, but you know, they're and you'll see. I know one of the things later on in the fairgrounds, you know, Wes was saying how nice it would be to kind of have a price to pave all that fairground area, because they struggle with, you know, grading it and ADA accessibility throughout the fair, obviously knowing that it's a fairground at the same time. So we did provide some pricing for that as well. I'm going to scroll through it real quick. At the end, we kind of went through every building that we were assigned to. And then at the end of the fairgrounds, I did do a overall site classification just for the stuff that you really couldn't assign to a particular building. And that's where you're going to see kind of the paving. I know that there was a request to get water to all the campsites you guys have on site. So we kind of did our best guesstimate estimating that. And the same with the 50 amp electrical service to all 69 campsites. So this is where you'll see building number 24 isn't really a building, but it is the overall fairgrounds site work that I call it for that complex.
And just as a, I think I've mentioned it earlier, but as a point of clarification, right? So what David has shown here is capital expenditures over, you know, the 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 year period. We mentioned the space needs assessment that we also did, and that involved a series of interviews with the county staff, some survey efforts and things to collect things that would be above and beyond what we're showing here. So some of the intangibles, like the inefficiencies around having to remobilize courts across the street due to ADA access, things like that, obviously are not going to be addressed by you know, fixing a carpet or a floor, right? So just want to make it clear distinction that this is kind of just to maintain your facilities to a level that we collaborated on with the county.
Okay.
Right, so the space study will then do some further work in terms of the use of our spaces, and are there recommendations about how to, and costs associated with using our space better rather than just fixing what we have exactly as it is.
Is that in this draft?
No. Okay, so I will send this out to all of the commissioners then, and we'll set some time in mid-July, mid to late July, to review. Do we want to review just with the full board? Do we want to just ask people to get information back to us after they've reviewed questions? What do you think is the best way to?
I think we should do the review with a full board.
I agree. If not, maybe even a special meeting.
It's a lot of material.
A lot going
I
on.
want it.
It may be beneficial to have an exclusive meeting for this.
Yeah.
Because you really could drag out a full board meeting, you know.
At the next facilities meeting, we could ask all members of the board
Yeah,
to
that'd be great.
attend and for the specific purpose of focusing on this.
Yeah, that's a good idea because generally this is a relatively short meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That'd be the 19th of July.
that's just a thought.
Yeah, so why don't we put out a email with the information and attach that we would like, attendance from all the board members on the 19th to make sure that that works for everyone in case we have to move this around.
And I think it's important that everybody get this in paper form, because it's look at it on a computer.
I have to turn my computer sideways.
Yeah,
No, but I mean, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
yes.
We'll, for anyone who hasn't printed it out already, we'll have printed copies in the commissioner's office that people can pick.
You got one?
I got a copy of it.
Yeah. I got a copy, so Brenda's got a copy and so.
Guess I don't need another one.
No,
And we'll save the paper and not.
yeah, save a tree.
Mary Catherine, do you want me to
Yes.
make those building number changes before you send it out? I can do that shortly and get it over to you later today.
Yeah, that would be great if you can do that for the copies I print out. And then
Sure.
I will get with you guys on those dates, and we can talk about the use study at the same time and when we want to go over that.
Yep, and obviously with a little bit of notice, we can make ourselves available to come up to the county in person as needed. So
Perfect. All right. Just as a note, I am planning to be on vacation on the 19th, which doesn't mean you guys can't go through this report. I have been through the report quite a bit myself, and have talked with the folks at Plant Moran a lot about it, so. Okay.
Thank you.
thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, so we did casually speak a little bit about the 7-Eleven building, if you want to do a formal update.
Yep, so that lease is all completed and finalized and executed. They are looking to move in July 1, so that lease will officially start July 1.
How many year lease is that?
That is a 3-year with an option to renew for another 3 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there anything else on the agenda?
Just to receive and file the fairground report and the recycling reports.
I just, I got one thing. I just got a text from somebody who was asked about the homeless at the fairgrounds.
My understanding is at the moment, we do not have anyone who is camping there with a voucher from NEMSCA, but I can double check that with Patrick. Yes, we do.
I'm sure there is, but NEMSCA's not doing any churches that pay those. They come from a lot. I don't know if they might be getting reimbursed from.
No, I mean, my understanding in talking with the folks at NEMSCA, and I know we have a board rep who is on that board, is that they we're planning on not doing any vouchers for the fairgrounds through NEMSCA. As Wes mentioned, there might be somebody else, who is camping in there with a voucher. I mean, as I said before, right, if they pay their fee, they're just like anyone else.
Yeah.
So as long as they're following the rules, and I will say, and I'll let you guys know, and the folks who are on the Parks and Rec Board have heard this already. It appears that, thank you very much for passing the new parks ordinance. It is already making a difference in terms of enforcement. Our park managers have been very, very happy to have that new parks ordinance. And I know, like, for instance, out at Long Lake, they've already been writing tickets based on the new ordinance for things like power loading, but still that is a big deal and impacts our facilities and our property. So hopefully that will also continue to make a difference for any rules violations that might happen out at the fairgrounds with camping.
Has there been any additional talks at Parks or anything about the Long Lake project?
Yes, just a quick update. So we actually had our pre-construction meeting yesterday in regards to that project. So we have a timeline. They'll be starting right after Labor Day. Yes, I was hoping. So September 1st is what they are looking at as far as a construction start date with a completion, at least of all major construction in mid-November. There might be a few things that roll over into the spring, like, the installation of the new docks. Why put them in just to take them back out again? But all of the dredging and all of that will be completed in September and October. The road will be the first thing that they cut in since they'll be using that new access road for all of their vehicles to keep out of the park as much as possible. And there's just the only thing that the county is responsible for as far as that project is concerned is taking down the pavilion. And so we did have a discussion about that and how to accomplish that. Obviously, we know how to accomplish it. Getting it down is pretty straightforward.
Talking about the pavilion. I attended that meeting yesterday for Jesse and Sarah, the caretaker at Long Lake. She knows somebody that wants that.
Material?
Pavilion, yeah.
Want the pavilion, they want the material. They'll take it down themselves. That don't go to the county, but they want it. My feeling is that it should go to full board and let them decide. I asked Wes, he said he has no use for it, the lumber. I think the building could be saved myself because out to Sunken Lake Park, we redid the bridge, put new shingles on it, roof, whatever it needed, and we saved that bridge. You probably could save that pavilion and maybe move it.
I think if somebody wanted to take the time to piece by piece tear it apart, it probably could be.
But apparently it hadn't been taken care of all those years it's been there. Normally you take care of a building.
There's two pavilions?
Yes.
It's just the one going?
Yes.
The one to the left of the restroom there.
Okay.
That thing isn't probably, we're screwing around, let's just tear it down, get it out of there. If you start monkeying, try to save the lumber stuff, you're gonna have to pay somebody to do that. It's not gonna be worth the effort.
It's made out of round logs too. It's not dimensional logs.
High dimensional lumber, yeah.
So I did request, I told Sarah if that was a request that she had, that she did need to take it to her committee. So it will go to the Parks and Rec for approval if we're going to have somebody else come in and take it down.
Yeah, they would have to be insured also.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go with that next. Hey,
Yeah.
it's great to save the money, but we were gonna have to have some kind of waiver or something in place, I would assume. If it costs us $1,000 to have it torn down, it may save us a lot in a liability issue. And if it comes to something where we are gonna tear it down ourselves, I will donate a trailer to haul the rubble out. So, but I mean, if,
You know, if the maintenance department ended up doing it, I was just gonna take the cat motor out there
yeah,
and crank it down and.
right,
Load her up.
yeah, yeah. So we have a trailer, we can,
We'll need a dumpster for the shingles and stuff on the roof, but, you know, the rest of it just.
As long as this, excuse me, Wes, as long as this guy that says he wants to take it down, there's a timeline that meets our timeline need. It's not.
right, yeah,
still there.
certainly it can't hold up
You
the,
can't drag it out.
And
yeah,
there's also power connected to that building.
Yes, and that was a discussion yesterday in regards to pulling the power back and tying it off at the
Restroom.
restroom at the pit toilet area where I guess, you know, we could put a box. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and then I know Steve's, I think, is Steve Smigelski still online? No, he's dropped off. I will call him. There was, I do have a couple of notes of things to follow up with. And actually, Travis, you might know the answer to some of these questions, but I will follow up with Steve as well in regards to the grade of to what grade they are crushing the concrete out at the airport and whether any of it would be of the sufficient smallness to use out at Long Lake Park.
so it can be crushed to whatever size desired. You know, the finer you want to go, the more the cost goes up. But it very well could, it probably would be suited for any fill or anything like that out there.
Right. Because Sarah was asking, you know, they weren't sure if they could get it to what they needed because of the asphalt content.
There's no asphalt in that.
Oh, there's none.
No.
Okay.
What they're crushing is only concrete.
All right.
Yep.
That's good to know.
They do, you
They
know,
looked like 21A or something.
Yeah.
Like a road travel is what they were looking for.
yep, yep. And the only struggle is there's not going to be a whole lot of binder in it, you know, like a limestone. But I mean, it's a good filler.
Are they using most of that on the new runway?
No, none.
They're just grinding it up?
Yeah, I don't, there's probably, oh my, 50,000 ton up there. And I don't know what they're gonna do with it, honestly. So
It's not our
What is,
our
they're gonna have to get it
responsibility.
out of there, aren't they?
Contractors,
it's our material.
our material.
Yeah, so it's going to be there when they're gone.
Okay.
Yep, to my understanding.
That is my understanding as well, because the cost in shipping it off was such that we thought, well, you know what? Couple hills of gravel will do it for
Yeah.
a little while.
That'd be, you know, a couple $100,000 to get that out of there.
Because I mean, we could always use it at the jail. Because we got that wetlands permit's going to be up this year, I believe.
It expired already, didn't it?
Now, I think it might be,
April.
but anyway, you could always, you know, actually
What is
extension
it
it.
crushed up to now? Just big chunks,
12-inch by 12-inch average,
okay? So they don't have a crusher on site then?
not yet.
Not yet.
They're bringing one in place. Yeah.
So I'll talk to Steve and see if RSNH can give us a little bit more engineering, you know, testing on it to tell us what it is and if they can get it to road grade, because those were two questions that we had. One is, can they use it as base where they're going to pave? If they can't get it to what they need for that, could Sarah use it just for gravel on her driveway coming in? That gets, you know, needs fill and needs filled in and extra on it. And then there was a question about it for something else too, but I can't remember anyway.
So basically, it's going to be crushed rock down to what size?
Again, they can crush it to whatever size.
Are they, but they're crushing it for us, right?
I don't want to misspeak because I'm not 100% sure. I just know that they were bringing in a crusher for some of it.
Yeah.
What, in a contract, was there anything in the contract that said the material stayed or they could reuse it or?
I knew that they were bringing in the crusher and they had it there because there was a hope that maybe they could use some of it in the project. And I don't know if that was an expectation about using it on our FAA project, which is that middle part, which is asphalt, or if the expectation was maybe they could use it at the two ends that are going back in concrete. That I don't know, Bill, but I know that they were leaving it and they were bringing in the crusher because they were hoping, because there was a little bit of a mystery. I mean, they did their borings and everything about what it would look like when it came up. But no, there is nothing in the contract about them removing that material because we knew it would add a huge amount of cost to.
What would it cost to have that crushed up?
So that's what I'm going to find out from Steve and from RSNH with the contractors that are out there.
They crush it to a road gravel, they could probably use it, you know.
Well, it'd be a good fill because like Travis said, there's no filler and there's no clay in it. So it's going to be rock when you put down. So it'll work its way into the ground.
Okay.
Very good. So I think we have everything taken care of on the agenda. The only thing that I will say on here, we briefly again discussed the gator. When I leave here, I'll stop by Hudson and just go over that estimate really quick. If it seems all right, should we just move forward and get it fixed?
Why don't you just get it fixed because you're screwing around with it now?
Yeah,
How many months?
yeah, yep,
Okay.
okay.
And then is the vehicle, the pool vehicle out getting repairs?
Yes, it's at Marsh Collision.
At Marsh Collision. Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Yep, certainly.
Somebody with a pool vehicle.
The one that was in the accident.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
Now I remember.
Pretty extensive damage. I'm actually surprised they're fixing it.
I thought somebody said it was totaled.
That is what I assumed when I saw the pictures and saw the torqued frame, but when the insurance adjuster went out and looked at it, they recommended that we fix it, and they've actually already cut us a check.
How much does it cost to fix it?
$14,586.
14,000?
Yeah.
And it had a bent frame.
Too bad for.
No.
And they
You hit a deer, it's 10,000.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at the cost, and I wouldn't be surprised if it exceeds that, honestly. But that's the insurance thing, you know, I mean,
Well, they'll get into it and they'll find something else and
Yeah.
just have to okay it because they're going to be into it.
Yep, they've already made the obligation to fix it, so.
My brother-in-law had his car stolen. He had an Escalade. They stole it. And it was a few years back. They decided to fix it. Well, they fixed the whole car up and they found out the motor was shot. And they couldn't find a used motor. They had to buy a new motor.
Gosh.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Well, we got a motion in a second, so meeting adjourned.
Aye.